Now let's talk about behavioral change 101, all right, and what it is that they are missing. Let me just check one thing. There we go. Okay. What is it that they're missing? So if you take all the behavioral change theories in a blender and you put them all together, they all say pretty much the same thing. What they say is that behavioral change is a process, not an event. There's forward movement and there's backward movement, and your goal is to have more forward movement than there is backward movement. And as long as there continues to be more forward than backwards, you'll end up making progress. All right? And there are 5 steps to behavioral change. And if you're working on a population level, you need to understand that different people are at a different stage for any given problem. And that an individual might be at a different stage for 2 different problems. So therefore, you have to have all of these kind of interventions so that all of the kids, no matter what stage they're at, will be able to be supported to move forward. The first stage you need to have is awareness. If you're not aware of a problem, you're not going to do anything about it. That's why we give people facts. We teach people facts so that they will become aware of a problem. But suppose you're aware of a problem, the next thing is you got to be motivated to do something about that problem. And what makes you motivated to do something about the problem is you think that it affects you. That's why it's so important to have multicultural education. You can't, you're not going to change if all you're learning about is other people, if you don't relate to it. We know the most about behavioral change from cigarette smoking and from HIV. HIV hit in 1982. I was a first-year medical student in New York. 4 kids from my class died. It was overwhelming, okay? And we did not know what caused the disease. It was very much like Ebola. Like, should we stay in medical school? Are we all going to die? And then within a couple months, we realized that it was a gay white man's disease. And once we realized it was a gay white man's disease, those of us who didn't fall in those categories felt better and stopped changing. We were, of course, wrong. All right? And as a result, people did not take the behavioral steps needed because they are not personally motivated to be able to stop the problem. But suppose you're highly aware and you're deeply motivated, but you don't know what to do. How do you feel? So someone says to you, HIV is a terrible disease and you don't want to get it, and that's why you've got to wear a condom, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But they don't say to you how to deal with a partner who says, you want that between us? You think you don't trust me? You think I'm going out on you? Maybe you're the one who's a skank. If you don't teach people how to deal with the circumstances they're going to deal with in real life, then you've made them aware, you've made them motivated, but you've left them without skills. How do you feel if you have no skills? Helpless, stressed. Stress drives all negative behaviors. For that reason, we must give kids skills. But suppose you have the skills, then what happens is you go through this process of trial and error. What am I giving up? What am I gaining? Because the only way I'm going to move forward is if I believe that what I'm gaining is better than what I've given up. So I'm thinking about quitting smoking cigarettes, and that's good because I'm going to save $8 a day, and my teeth aren't going to be yellow, and I'm going to be less likely to get cancer. But I was going to quit way before then anyway, so it's not a big problem. But damn, I'm nervous. Is that kid ready to quit? No, because stress trumps everything, which is why the only way we're going to move forward is if we institute a wide repertoire of positive coping strategies. All right? And then finally, am I going to maintain my new behavior or not? And whether or not I'm going to maintain my new behavior is really based on what gets reinforced versus undermined. I want to be a virgin until I'm married. What's going to happen when I turn on the TV set? And what do other 17-year-old guys look like who are virgins? Are my friends going to say, Ken, you have a really strong spiritual center and I'm proud of you? Or my friend's going to go, what's wrong with you, man? Right? That's what it's about. What's going to be maintained versus undermined. Do you get this as a model? So, there's another concept. The other concept is pre-contemplation. Pre-contemplation means you haven't even thought about it. And the way most people think about pre-contemplation is, gosh, if the person hasn't even thought about it, then what we need to do is we need to help them become aware. Because awareness is clearly the stage that gets you thinking. And those people are completely wrong. It is not that people don't have knowledge. It is that people lack confidence. They are demoralized. They are shamed. And what initiates the behavioral change process is not giving people more facts. It is about how you take away shame and how you give someone a sense of power and hope and what's called agency, that they believe they actually can change. So what are we going to do? We're going to, this is supposed to say, finding competence, building confidence. What we're going to do is we are going to look in their lives and change the way we see things. So this kid is smoking marijuana, which is incredibly destructive to his brain and to his well-being, to his drive, to his motivation. This kid is selling marijuana, which is not only destructive for him, but destructive for all of society. And what about this girl? She's 15 years old and she wants to become pregnant. Does she not understand that that's going to create intergenerational poverty? And then what do? We wrap our hands around the problem. We say, well, gosh, this kid hasn't really thought very much about the consequences, so let me give them 5 to 7 consequences. So we look at the young man who's smoking marijuana, and we say to him, don't you understand that marijuana will fry your brain, make you grow breasts, and shrink your balls? All of which is incidentally true-ish. And how does he respond to that knowledge? Thanks, Doc. And he goes to smoke some more. Why? Why was he smoking in the first place, guys? Because he was stressed. And me telling him that his balls were going to shrink didn't help. All right? So what are we going to do? We are going to build from his existing competencies. Notice what his strengths are. Break demoralization and make him understand how to get started. So what's it going to look like? So kids who use drugs are my favorite kids. I abhor drug use, and I don't do anything stronger than green tea, okay? I abhor substances. But there's so many different ways of dealing with pain, right? You can cut it out, you can sex it out, you can fight it out, you can starve it out. Who are the kids who are using drugs? What are they trying to become? Numb. What kind of kids choose to become numb? Those who feel, the sensitive ones. The kids who are cutting are the ones who don't know how to feel. They're creating a sensation to feel. The kids who have eating disorders are trying to create control over a life that feels chaotic. Okay? The kids who are doing drugs, I'm not talking about the experimenters, I'm talking about the kids who are sticking with it. The kids who are doing drugs are trying to become numb because they feel. So what am I going to do? I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen to that kid the way he has never been listened to before. And then I'm going to tell him his story back. So, here is every Friday for me, because that's when I work at Covenant House. You listen to the story and you go back. Matt, you grew up in a house where your dad used to beat your mom, and you used to try to get between them even when you were a little kid. And then you'd get between them and he'd throw you against the wall. And then you cried. And he said, men don't cry. You want to see how to be a man? And he'd go after your mom some more. Then your mom turned to drugs. It meant there weren't a lot of people around to take care of your little brothers and sisters. And you've wanted to get out of the house since you've been, you said, 5 years old, but you knew you couldn't because you've been taking care of them for that long. And you want to be a social worker when you grow up, so you can help kids to have better lives. And then you know that to be a social worker, you have to do pretty well in school. And you go to school and you really want to learn, but you're so tired because you had to wake up early to get all your little brothers and sisters ready for school, and you had to feed them, but your teachers don't know that. And they look at you, and they see you nodding off in class, and they assume you don't care. You? Not care? You? Who spend your whole, you can't even fall asleep, you told me? Why? Because you're thinking about what to do to fix your house, what to do to fix your community, what to do to fix your family. You not care? They don't know you, do they? And then when you have trouble sleeping and you get tired of your head just spinning and spinning and spinning, then what happens? Then you grab the blunt and your head stops spinning. and then you can sleep, and your thoughts are under control. Do you ever feel like that before you smoke? And the kids are like, exactly. That's exactly it. I was like, well, you know what? A man like you, a man who cares, a man who feels, a man who wants to fix the world, you're the kind of man who's going to make it. You're the kind of man who's going to be the best lover, the best father, the best colleague, the best boss. You got it, because it's the men who feel who are the men who make it. I understand why you're smoking, and I understand that it's hard to have this many feelings right now, but I want to congratulate you for having them. I know it's hard now, but if we can figure out some way of you're dealing with those feelings, I think we have a shot at really, really making you the man I think you're destined to be. Pause, deep breath. But I'm feeling worried, I have to tell you. You got all this potential in you, but you're also doing something to deal with your pain that's really going to shut you down. Let me ask you, do you know anybody who smokes 24/7? Yeah, what are they like? Chilling? Well, what does that mean? How much do they accomplish? What do they get done? Well, God forbid you, because you're blessed with these feelings, would shut yourself down and get nothing done. That is a waste of a man who I think is going to make a difference. Can we talk? Can we talk about some other way of managing these feelings that I'm glad you have, but that I understand are too much, without you shutting yourself down? Can we talk about that? That's love. Seeing someone as they deserve to be seen, as they really are, not based on the behaviors that they display or what they produce. That's what love is. And when we see that, then we overtake the field. So I am not blind to risk. My whole career is about mitigating risk. What I know is that focusing on risk isn't what matters. It just increases shame and stigma, and it backfires. And what we have to do is listen to kids intensely, find what is right for them, and break demoralization. That is what initiates the behavioral change process. Again, love is, I'm sad that I didn't put this on the slide. Love is seeing someone as they deserve to be seen, as they really are, not as the behaviors that they sometimes display. All of us have the ability to love when we listen without judgment and get out of our own way. When a behavior feels like it's against us, it gets you in your way. When you listen, you can see it. And I'm telling you, that is the only thing that changes lives. I've been working with the most traumatized kids for 30 years. And when you talk to them and you meet them again when you're 25, they're 25 years old, and you say, hey, so what turned you around? The answer is always something like, it was when Miss Kim made me understand I wasn't trash. It was when Miss Monica understood that I was worth something. It was when Mr. Curtis, who didn't know me from a can of paint, wouldn't let go. And I kept trying to push him in, but I was really listening the whole time. And finally, I knew I had to let someone in or I was going to die. That is the moment that is transformative in people's lives. So for the kids who are in your classrooms, who have more than enough love, and they are seen, do your job. Teach. But for those kids who need you the most, this is the key to turning them around. And how many kids, and this is what I would love to see happen. You know what I would love as a follow-up, or I'd love you to do as lunch? I'd love some of you who are in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, I'd love you to take some of the 20 and 30-year-olds around and just tell them a story. Tell them the story of the person who stopped you in the grocery store and said, hey, Miss Jones, remember me? And you don't, but you know you're smart enough to go, I'm not sure, but I remember that face. I'm beginning to see it. Help me out here. Right? And then they go, Miss Jones, I know that I might have seemed like a knucklehead in your class, but you kept pushing, you kept believing in me, and I want you to know that I heard you. And I still didn't do well in your class, but I want you to meet my daughter here, Sarah. She's 8 years old, and you know what? I believe in her the way you never stopped believing in me. True or not, do you have these experiences? This is what the younger folks need to know. It is the transformative moment that we have in people's lives.